What's going on, guys? I am Matthias. Today we're going to announce something that might shock you, might excite you, might surprise you, and might anger you, but this is a long time coming. Today we're announcing that we will be renaming Hi5 Studios. I urge you to watch the entire video before commenting. It is not a good look to jump to conclusions and spew falsehoods when information is literally readily available right in front of you. I will most likely be answering some of your biggest curiosities about the internal happenings at Hi5, so stay tuned. I want to bring you in on an intentional transition that we've been making for years. This messy transition with many sad endings, and many of which we wish we could avoid, but avoiding would have meant something far worse than what we ended up with. This transition into being a different company, a better company, one that delivers focused value to our audience, and it delivers it time and time again. That is always our goal, and that is what we're stepping into. This shift might not be what you want, and it won't be for everyone, but it won't take away from some of the crazy fun times that we've had. I'll be responding to comments, so pose your questions below, and I'll do my best to answer them along with getting into your suggestions for what we should name the company. Also, you can leave suggestions down there below, but before you leave suggestions, stay to the end of the video because I'm going to tell you how. This is going to be a long one, so apologies. If you don't really care about the history of Hi5 and how we got here, more power to you. That's totally okay. So use this as a time code right there to just skip to the end where we get to the fun stuff of renaming the company and having your involvement and your influence on what the name of our company will be. So let's get into it. I want to clarify where we came from and why this is the best thing for the company with 3 different major points. I also want to say before you judge any past Hi5 employee, know that there's a huge difference between termination for poor performance and being laid off because projects weren't profitable. And know that not everyone that has left Hi5 was a poor performer. So before we get into that name changing, let's talk a bit about the history of Hi5. The name Hi5 originated when I was trying to quickly change my email address from getting hacked. I've been hacked a couple times, and the first thing I could think of when I was reflecting on my content was the fact that I high-fived my camera at the end of all my videos. It was at that point I was using that private handle for years to do all of my business stuff, like editors. When the studio was started, I quickly threw together a logo, and that was that. I rushed through it, and it's always been a sore point for me. Now that's not a reason to rename the company, I know that. But there is something to be said for that mindset that I was in when I first started that company, and for the first couple years of that company. That was the mindset of everything. Kind of rush through things and figure it out along the way instead of carefully planning. And that is not where we are now, and that name doesn't really align to that. I've had this idea of making a company that would create dope YouTube content. I wanted it to have something for everyone. I wanted everyone's ideas to be included, and I wanted to give people time to see their ideas come to life. For anyone that has any sort of business experience and you're watching this, yeah, I know, it's very naive, very idealistic. The core idea sounds good, but it's really a recipe for disaster because it breeds individualism. A lot of our audience still thinks that Hi5 was a collective, essentially a group of individuals coming together due to a shared interest who are all paving their own way. Sounds accurate to what Hi5 was, right? Like a YouTuber house, where you have all these different YouTubers in a house and they're all doing their own thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They appear in each other's videos from time to time and they have fun, and sometimes they might help each other, quid pro quo. Usually it's every person for themselves. But the issue here was that this wasn't a YouTuber house where people were here on their own merit. This was a company being run like a collective. See, in a company, it's not every man or woman for themselves. It's about everyone coming together to create something amazing. With a collective culture, it's impossible to align and come together. We had a culture of hyper-individualism. What we really needed, though, was unity. We were scared to move towards unity because we conflated unity for uniformity. Uniformity is when we all think the same, do the same, and are the same. Unity is where we celebrate each other's differences and come together to complete a whole. Individualistic cultures care about what am I getting out of it versus what can I provide to others. Individualism is competitive in nature, not collaborative. In those YouTuber houses, you are responsible for your own channel and you gotta pay your rent to be there. If your channel falls off, you fall off. That's why these cultures constantly use the term relevant to judge each other. There was this mistaken impression that Hi5 would be the sanctuary for creators to express themselves no matter the content, no matter the context, no matter the circumstances, and somehow Matthias would have to fit the bill for all of that. That was never the original vision, and that's not even practical or doable. See, a collective is largely about democracy and merit, not leadership and direction. But our collective at the same time fought for democracy without the real experience or merit to hold it correctly. The issue is Hi5 was a company and I was its leader, and I wasn't being listened to because I filled the seats at the studio incorrectly around an individualistic mission. People of inexperience held more power than they should have because the audience really liked them on camera. And that's totally okay that you guys liked them, but it's not okay that I put them in positions of power that they weren't ready for yet. The real truth of it all was all of this manifested because I was competitive. I was individualistic at the time. But Hi5 for years was essentially a group of individuals that deeply resisted to aligning to a higher goal. The first 3 years of Hi5 Studios was one of the most stressful times in my entire life because our culture was self-centered and not other-centered. And when you have a culture self-centered that doesn't help each other, maybe half the culture was selfless and was doing most of the work, and the other half was just hanging out and having fun. A self-centered culture sweats the small stuff, like whose responsibility is it to pick up the trash off the floor, rather than the culture that we have today, which is when someone sees trash on the floor, they just pick it up because they don't want trash on the floor, because this is our shared space. That was not the culture that we had back then. I take full responsibility for that failure of vision and hiring mistakes. That's 100% on me, and that's why 2 years ago we decided to not only take responsibility, but to also take action. And for the past 2 years, that's been what you've been witnessing. It's what's appeared to you as the downfall of Hi5 in reality was its transformation. So here's the first reason: culture shift. Year 3 rolls around and we realized that if we wanted to truly make a great company that helps people in this world, we would have to make some really tough decisions. And we'd have to sit with that pain for a long time before we could talk about it and share the why. So over time, we started putting up with a lot less from underperformers. It was a tough decision because the company was stretched really thin. So there wasn't a lot of time to put energy into new projects because we were so busy dealing with poorly run projects. Last year, I decided to culminate this culture shift by establishing a new vision of the studio. For months, we held meetings with the entire staff, opening the floor for feedback. We did this for the vision, the mission, and the values. Everyone came together in vibrant discussions to help write these. Then, when there was no more feedback to be had, everyone in the company signed off on the new vision, mission, and values. And I mean that explicitly, not because they had to, but because they actually agreed. If they didn't agree, they were asked not to sign, and we asked for more feedback so they could feel good about getting on board with this new direction the company was going. So to clarify again, everyone agreed in this new direction. Regardless of what they say out there in all these videos, they signed it. We didn't force anyone to sign it. This was not a top-down declaration. This was a team effort and full adoption. Here is our mission, vision, and values. The vision. Hi5 Studios creates worlds so immersive that people can find themselves within the compelling stories and shared creations. The mission. We tell stories that inspire transformation. And that, by the way, was largely inspired by some of your guys' feedback. In the last video I uploaded, we've altered the mission based on a lot of feedback that you guys had. Great feedback, not just because you provide it, but because it actually aligns with what we're trying to do. And the values: excellence, ingenuity, better together, and versatility. At that point, when we established all of these pieces, that was the moment everything changed. Since we all agreed on the vision, mission, and values, the next step was to hold each other accountable to them. It's hard to say if sharing this plan with you all along would have been the right move. It probably would have put properties like Battle Universe, Get Good Gaming, Wrecked in really tough spots that would have been unneeded. Because contrary to popular belief, we wanted these properties to grow and adapt to this vision. A lot of people have this really weird sentiment of the only channels that were allowed to exist were the ones that Matthias had. Whereas the entire company was mine. If those channels won, I won. Why would I want my own company to not work? There's just some really flawed logic there. From then on, we had to make difficult moves. Instead of keeping people that didn't hit goals, we would have to let them go, even if they were audience favorites. Note that just because videos are being uploaded, it doesn't mean the people featured on those channels were performing adequately. Consistently delivering a product does not necessarily mean it's a good product, much less a product on mission or on vision. Furthermore, as a reminder, the only reason we ever canceled channels was due to one of two reasons. 1. It was not self-sustaining for a prolonged period of time, and many opportunities to get there with coaching was given. Or 2, the leader of the channel left. YouTube channels aren't little businesses, they are relationships. This is why so many people are upset when they are canceled, or when a main person of those YouTube channels leaves. When the leader in the relationship leaves, the relationship is over. This was the difficult part, and it posed really painful problems, like the perception that you guys held of us, while internally we are stronger than ever. An example of this is all of the I left Hi5 or I was fired from Hi5 Studios videos that people have posted. The reality of the situation was I hired people in the past without having company values, and it's not surprising that when we hired these people, they had no experience. Furthermore, correcting all of these videos publicly would have just caused unneeded drama, and I don't like drama online. It's so pointless. Nobody wins. It's just more competition. So it's this drama that I didn't want to perpetuate online, so I just took the hit. I understand with limited information, people make judgments of me and my values and my company. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm still here. I still exist. I'm okay. But why wasn't I honest to the audience about that? It's not that simple. Furthermore, not all information is the audience's to have in the first place. I'm not trying to ruin careers here. Videos like this stay up forever. I would hate for the next couple of years for some of these individuals' life to be rocky because they can't get a job because I publicly told millions of people that they consistently underperformed at my company for 3 months in a row with multiple opportunities, correct behavior, and performance. I believe people grow. It's one of the reasons why I've held on to these people for so long at my company. That's why I terminate. I don't terminate because I don't like people or because they're not working on projects that I like. I terminate people for consistently underperforming with coaching. To the people that still surprises, do you think it's fair that I continue to pay people to achieve results that they're not able to or invested in achieving? Because if so, then I wouldn't have a business and you still wouldn't have content. You can choose to believe me. It doesn't make a huge difference to me. If that means that I have to be the villain in your story, so be it. Because I know I'm not defined by what people think of me. I'm defined by what I actually do, on camera or off. Number 2, there's this growing sentiment because of all these changes that people think I'm some sort of creative dictator. This is simply not the case, but it is my job here to fight for our vision, mission, and values. And if you consistently resist these things that are at the very identity of the company, it will lead to termination. That's not crazy. To make it explicit, no one is above the vision, mission, and values, not even me. When we put an individual above the company, that means we care more about that one person than the entire rest of the company of people. This would break everything down and turn right back into a culture of individualism. Interestingly enough, this vision that I hold is not rigid by any means. It's very creatively flexible. Storytelling is one of the main points of our mission and vision, but storytelling can be executed in many different ways. Storytelling is literally the foundation of almost everything you do in your entire life. When channel leaders recently resisted to aligning to this aspect of our vision, an example I gave them was this. I consistently quoted PewDiePie's Fight with T-Series as one of the best stories that's ever existed on this platform. I stated I'm not looking for a narrative and characters and plots and acting and special effects. I'm looking for essential elements of a story, and I use PewDiePie as a great example to articulate this. A goal, obstacles, and a relationship to the community where the impact that they have matters. That's super creatively flexible, and that's what I pitched. When you break down a good story, that's what it is. It's people going after a goal, facing trials, and getting help along the way. I'm not looking to dictate what story you tell or how you tell it, but from here on out, at this organization, that's what we do. We tell stories that inspire transformation. Core reason number 3. Now we are actually a new company. The people who are still with this company are those that have proven that they are adapting to the culture shift and are capable of aligning to the vision and mission that we all agreed upon. We aren't trying to make something for everyone anymore. We aren't trying to catch trends on YouTube anymore. We aren't trying to make entertainment that distracts you from your lives anymore. It's time we make a new identity, and an identity that we want you to help us shape. An identity that allows us to move into a new chapter, reminiscing about the past but not holding on to it. Our goal is now what we say it is. We want to create worlds so compelling that you find yourselves in those stories, that you relate to those people, that you gain courage and wisdom and make real changes out in the world that affects others. You might not notice it happening. You might not realize what's been done, but you'll feel that magic, I promise you. By immersing, modeling, and connecting and inspiring, we aim to tell stories that change your heart, because that's when we feel the magic of everything comes together. This name must signify that shift. You might think that this will upset a lot of people, and that is honestly one of the reasons why we're doing this. Not to upset people per se, but to help the people who are still holding on to the past high five, to help them let go of it once and for all. The individuals we're talking about here are the ones hostile to any feedback, not fans that enjoyed our content and continue to enjoy it, or fans that enjoyed our content and reminisce about the past. We do that too, and we thank you for being fans. And we're not even talking about the viewers that enjoyed the past content and decided they don't really want to stick around for this new phase. Again, thanks for your past support, and I totally understand that. But here we're talking about the viewers that watch the old content and now toxify our current communities. The viewers angry at us for doing our best job to keep our company afloat, and the ones that ridicule our decisions. These are viewers that we're saying goodbye to now. My hope is that this video and this shift gives those viewers some closure that they need so that they can move on. This is a good thing, and we've had a ton of fun together, but now that chapter is over, and it's time for us to move on to new and better things. The biggest question I'm sure you're asking right now, even beyond any of these things, is what the heck does this mean for Dope or Nope? Great question, but right now, like the projects we've had in the past, we're not rushing to force it into a box. And we didn't do that with past projects. We sat with them for a while, for almost a year, to see if it could align, to see what would come from it. For now, we're experimenting and gaining knowledge and feedback from you guys before we launch more stories into the world, and Dope or Nope is a key proponent in helping us do that. And who's to say that Dope or Nope can't align with that in the future? So for now, enjoy it. So now we get on to renaming the company. I hope you see why it's super important that we rename the company right now. It's important because we're moving on to new things. We are respectful of the past and what we've created together with you, but we're excited by the future. Furthermore, this is an opportunity to do this together. And by together, I do mean with you. Staying true to our vision of immersion. We would love to hear out what you guys have to say. So here are some of the top contenders for company names. I'm also asking the staff to come up with a bunch of names. So here's 3 names. Realms, Spellbound. This one actually Amanda came up with. Storyverse. See, these names communicate this idea of immersion and captivation and multiple worlds and multiple alternate realities. Before you turn your nose up at any of these options, do one of 2 things. Suggest your own down below, and remember how silly Hi5 sounded when you first heard of it being a company. If you do come up with a name, we want it to be reminiscent of our vision and mission. In other words, try to have it encapsulate in feeling at least 3 of the following words: story, immersion, influence, transformation, discovery, alternate reality, captivating, worlds, universe, fantasy. Put your suggestions down in the comments below, and we're all gonna go through them and pick out some of the best ones we can think of. And then I'm gonna come back to you with what that name is. And I hope you guys are excited about it, and thank you very much. I'd love to hear what you guys think about some of the names that we've offered, and I'd love to see if you guys can come up with some names yourself. I know this might feel strange, but I ask you to trust us. But for now, thank you so much for being on this journey with us.